Oh, that's kind of neat that it's on there. Hmm. All right, I'll be with everybody in a few moments and just getting everything set up. Doing my sharing of the link and getting everything, taking care of the admin. But I will be with everybody shortly. If you come in and you don't hear anything, because I still haven't figured out how to play music um, through StreamYard to like I had it the first time when I was just doing the OBS. So bear with me for a moment, and we will see what's going on. All right, be back. Okay, let's get started. Okay, welcome. Ah, boy. So, welcome to another episode of What the Fuck Just Happened. This is episode 16, and we got some stuff to talk about. But before we get into it, let's. I know Pooh's already spoken ahead of time, so we'll get to your comments in a few moments. Let's take care of some admin. So, those that are new to the show, probably just listening for the first time, you can find me on Twitter. There you go. You can, and for those that, because this is multi-streaming here on Twitch and also on YouTube. So those people that are on YouTube can find me over at Twitch, Evo325, and obviously the people that are here on Twitch. If you want to check out my YouTube channel, it's right here. So, and also, like I highlighted yesterday on First and Frame Rates, let's go ahead and take care of that. So, I am a featured panelist on the show First and Frame Rates, VF and Bills. VF is the main host of the show. We go live every Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7:45 ish Eastern Standard Time. It's also here on Twitch as well. So we talk about sports and we talk about video gaming and kind of like do everything on the fly when it comes to other topics. So we're a very organic, unapologetic, uncensored show. So if you like that type of stuff, then, come check us out. So it's over on VF Baller's channel on Twitch. As we used to go live on YouTube, but everything is now live on Twitch. So check us out. And then, just as I was highlighting yesterday on First and Frame Rates, started writing again. So there's my blog site. I had just posted an article yesterday, and just, chiming back in after a long hiatus of writing. Like I said, my last article was back in July. So that's that. So let me just roll that in there just in case you feel like it. Now you're gonna say no more. So let's since we've already have a couple of comments, and Pooh's the main one here, we're going to go into our first topic. But the main two topics we're going to go over, there's some others that are going to pop up. There's probably going to be just a Let It Fly edition after those two topics. But the first topic we're going to talk about will be you act white. That that seems like after I shared a post on Facebook, somebody said no one says that, and apparently he was clearly out of out of his own environment when he said that. He clearly was debunked because everybody pretty much laid out their experiences of that, of witnessing that. So, and then the second, we're going to talk about, yes, you read the title correctly, that ass effect controversy. Because Mass Effect, the Legendary Edition, which is featuring a not a remake, but a remaster of the original trilogy, and certain scenes were cut out featuring Miranda. I think are cut out or redone or whatever, and we'll get into that. So, all right, so back to the first one in hand. Now, let's get the Pooh because he's already on it. So let me see. So first thing, Pooh says, people say I act white because I talk like an intelligent human. That's usually how it goes. And then he also says, can you really imagine me saying, or any hood slang? Well, I have a hard time saying it. I'm sure you can't, and I can't either. I don't even say the N word as much because I have been conditioned not to. I think for me, cursing altogether has been ruled out. Even though I can curse, when I hear myself curse, it doesn't sound right. So, and then man taking notes about my personal looks. Why Dr. Eggman? That's a white man. See, look at this. I should put this man on mute forever. Anyway, so and of course, notice that I'll show you. Like, I know what Mr. Eggman looks like. I played Sonic in most of the Sonic games. You don't have to show me anything. I know what Mr. Eggman looks like. Dr. Eggman. But do you know what he looks like? Shade. I have an active mind too. I pretty much know what he would look like if he shaved. It would, yes, I get it. Oh boy. And then the all caps again. Ugh. Okay, anyway. That kind of that's worn out its effect. But anyway, okay, so let me and out of the privacy of my friends on Facebook, I'm not gonna share the screen, but I'm gonna pull up the Facebook. I said it like I was a boomer, the Facebook. So oh, his dog died, damn. Um so I can pull up the post so I can when I refer to certain it's a fucking brand. I don't care what brand it is. I'm not worried about a brand. Oh, speaking of which, you know what? You just reminded me. Speaking of brand, there we go. I had to, so I'm still not used to like doing everything myself as far as making sure everything is situated and straight. I feel like I do a good job, but I try. I try. So let me get back to this Facebook post. So I posted, I shared a post. It wasn't my quote. Wasn't anything I've said in the well. When I growing up as a kid, I probably have said it a few times, but I shared a post, and it says you act white. Now the imagery is of a black man showing on a clipboard says you act white, and it's that it it looks like Lawrence Fishburne. I forgot the name of the movie, and probably Menace to Society was the title of the movie that Lawrence Fishburne was in. So it's either Menace to Society. No. Boys in the Hood. I think it was Boys in the Hood. So he was in it. It looks like that's that character. So it says when black people display their intelligence, they are not imitating whiteness because intelligence is not an inherently white trait. Black excellence is real and has nothing to do with white proximity. So yeah, okay, yeah, I figured it was Boys in the Hood because you think about it, because it was Ice Cube, and thank you, Subliminary, thank you for stopping by too. Um, yeah, because at the end, for those that haven't seen it, cover your ears. And if you haven't seen it by now, the movie was in the early '90s, so if you haven't seen it by now, it's tough shit. But but yeah, it was a movie where there was this one guy and he was about to make it, even though that wasn't the centerpiece. That wound up being like everybody's most go-to video clip of Cuba Gooding Jr. shouting at damn, what's his name? And I met that dude, Morris Chestnut's character being shot down. So uh yeah, but the story was really about Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character and how he grew up and how he had friends. And it's funny because Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character kind of reminds me of myself, because I have friends that look like they were about to make it, not necessarily being shot down. They did their own self-destructive behavior type thing to keep them from get to the next level. But I also had some hood ass friends. Um, Hard to believe out here in Columbia. You would think anybody would be considered hood out here. It's the suburbs, but um, but they were hood for what was considered hood in Columbia. So, but just back to this post. So let me just go to the comments because it's just crazy how this comment. So I posted this a couple of days ago, and the first person chimes in, somebody who's constantly been chiming in to my post, because really the first time this person chimed in was when I took a shot at Biden, and it seems like he's been hurt ever since. He always chimes in and with some stupid shit that he says, but his first thing it says, nobody says this. What happened? What happened from that post until the next day where I chimed back at him was nothing but stories of how people have witnessed this. Now, let me see. I'm gonna probably pick out one person's interpretation. This is coming from a white woman. Um, she describes this as, now in a professional setting, it's masked as you are so articulate or so well spoken to my black colleagues. So I've seen that scenario play out. And then she continues on to say, which is problematic because it implies that the expectation is that they would not be those things, and literally no one says that to white people. In my experience, I've not seen anybody describe a white person as well spoken and articulate. Articulate more than likely, but not well spoken. The well spoken, I've exclusively have seen this white people saying it to black people. So I've had white people say it to me. The hard part is it considered offensive? A lot of times with me, I kind of look at intent. A lot of people say these things and they don't mean anything by it. And it's easier to tell intent based on the person that's speaking it, because you know them. If you know them, you don't think it's ill spirited. But for people you don't know, you kind of have to say, hey, do you say this? Is this something that you say to your white friends too when they speak like this? But the problem extends beyond that, if because most white people, they're used to hearing this from their own white friends or whatnot. So when you tend to are used to something, you kind of take it for granted, and you don't really, you kind of go with the pattern of, okay, well, they normally speak like that. But you see black people, which you've probably not been around a whole lot, and you see one that happens to speak like the way your white friends speak. You say these things because it's not, the pattern is broken. But what they're not, but for those people who are not ill-willed, and they're given a compliment based on breaking a pattern of what they've been used to, they're committing something that they didn't intend. They wanted to give a compliment, but they kind of stepped into it because other people that have had ill motives behind what they have said ruin it for them. So, and let me see, there was another person, black female, that chimed in. She was like, "This is a thing in the black community, and if you can't identify with our experience, you won't understand or get it. Sort of like colorism. It's not just about talking white or intelligence. It's about, for a long time, there was only one kind of blackness represented that we recognize inside and outside the community. Acting white means if you have interests or traits that are not considered the norm for the average black person, then you will or have heard this more than once." And that's another thing that pops up. Let me just get back to the chat real quick. That's another thing that pops up is the fact that what is considered norm for black people? What is the norm on how we speak? What is the norm? Well, one, we could start with just features. I'm like, just this topic alone, there's so many levels that you can speak on as far as this. You act white. Now, here's the thing. Now, the words itself, you're talking about, like, look at how I act. I think many in the black community would look at how I talk, how I act, and they would say the same thing. I've had this said to me many times. And then if you talk about like features, I don't have the typical black features. I've had literally, I did a video where I did my ancestry.com results. And people could look at me and was like, I could see the white man in you. I'm like, that's just crazy. It's like people really don't see me. Like, I've had an interview go awry because the phone interview, I sounded one way, but when I showed up, the man's attitude changed completely when he saw me. And it was for a personal training interview. And, dude was clearly intimidated. And I'm not a very intimidating person at all. I will admit, I'm not somebody that anyone should be scared of. Well, knowingly scared of. Secretly, you better be afraid. But anyway, it's one of those things where I associate the way I talk, I associate the way I act with education, which to me has nothing to do with being white or black or any other race. Now, the number of people that's available to does depend if you're black or white or any other race. And here's the thing: white people have this disparaging thing too. But I don't think when poor white people or people out in the country, not everybody out in the country, but like we have, like, let's say poorly educated white people, they speak a certain way and there's a slang or whatever. They're not told they're acting black. So you look at that dynamic and you're like, well, white people don't tell their own that they're acting black when they use slang. But, within the black community, if I talk the way I talk, which I don't associate with color, they're saying I'm acting white. I've literally been told that the way I was talking, I've kind of loosened up a little bit, but still, the fact that I've been told that I talk white, I don't sound black. I've had this discussion with Bills before, and he said he told me, it's like, I could tell you sound black. I'm like, how? Like, how does one sound black versus white versus Indian versus Mexican versus Chinese versus Japanese versus Russian, whatever. But if we were looking at, the color, what is the norm? Just to go back to it, what is the norm? Like what's normal? What's considered normal? I know I'm repeating this because each person has a different norm, but overall there is a norm for each race. It's sad because it's really it's let's see. I'm not gonna say it falls into stereotypes per se. It kind of overlaps stereotypes, but then there's some truth to it. Then and then you have to break it down to the individual. So, what are your guys's like the people that are watching right now, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Twitch? What do you consider the norm for each color? White people, black people, who's supposed like the way these are placed, like the way people encounter people who don't act a certain way because due to their skin color, it's a shock to the system. It's like a culture shock. Like they come across like white people who have never encountered black people before, only through like maybe television or something like that, and they see me and they hear me talk and they give me the oh, you're well spoken, you're very articulate. Like how am I supposed to take that if I don't know that they've only been exposed to black people through the media? That plays a factor too. The media throws out a lot of the stereotypes about each race: white, black, Hispanic, many of things. So let me see. I know Pooh is in here. He was like, "Don't get me started on slang." And let's see. And what he said, Philly should be officially touted as its own language. No, Philly should be touted as its own country. That in Florida. No, Philly would be the first city to go from city to country. Florida would be the first state to go from. It would be the first state to succeed from the union. But anyway, you act white. So I know Pooh shared his stories. Anybody else in the chat, whether you're on YouTube or Twitch, you have any accounts where you were depicted as acting white, whether it came from the black community or the white community or any other community, because it's not like it's a black to black thing or white to black or even white to white. Like I said, I don't think white people say to other white people who use slang or whatever or use a certain lingo or dialect that they're acting black. I'm like, me, I just look at it as the person lacks education, person does have education. And I just go on from there. Let's see. All right, so Subliminary Sports is like our culture loves pushing the rap narrative. Is it our culture or is it the media that pushes the rap narrative? Because I feel like the media is taking control of the rap narrative. Good, because when I don't know if anybody who really was listening to music in the 80s and 90s felt like it's a different story now as far as how rap is portrayed versus how it was in the 80s and 90s. I feel like the rap back in the 80s and 90s had a message that was telling a story that was trying to get out the struggles of us. It wasn't like 100% educational. Like we did exploit women. As far as the bikinis and just showing the bodies and stuff like that. The clickbait. That was the clickbait of the day, was to have women in bikinis, scantily clad women in the rap videos. But I feel like the real rap videos, the real rap music was telling a message and was telling a story. It had a message behind it. I feel like most of the rap today doesn't have the message to it. Like you got, there are some rappers from back then. Like I came across a tweet earlier. I forgot which member of the Wu Tang is actually a physicist. Like his educational background, he gave a lecture at MIT and Harvard. I think it was the RZA. I believe I came across the tweet earlier, but it's one of those things where I don't think I would find a rapper today that would have a background of that magnitude. I feel like they literally take these kids off the street and say, "Hey, long as you project this image that we're going to give you, and and then that's all you have to worry about. You don't have to worry about going back to school. Don't worry about school. We got you covered." And blah 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 blah. So, but we're straying from the main topic of acting white versus acting black, which and that's the thing. Um, Obviously, I know about the stereotypes about acting black. Oh, you use slang. You're like yo and homie. Like I've seen some awkward exchanges from white people that literally, once they encounter a black person, they try to say they try to start speaking the slang, like they heard it on TV. Matter of fact, the funniest exchange that I've seen in a movie was The Last Dragon, and it was funny because that movie right there definitely is a living example of breaking stereotypes. You had a black person acting Chinese, like he was Bruce Lee. He was named Bruce Leroy. You had Chinese. I don't know if they were Korean. See, you had Asians acting black per se because they were saying the words that most black people were using. It was like, "Who is this Jive Coolie?" and blah 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 blah. And they were talking like they were slick, they're cool, hip, and whatever. They're calling Bruce Leroy a square, and and but then once again, the white people were acting the way they don't normally act. They were in their proper whatever. So there are a lot of typical roles that get broken in that movie. But overall, it's just funny that that is still a thing that we have to teach, our kids, that, we have to put out there that the way you act has no indication on your color. Hey, what's up, Doug Thomas? I see you there. And then let me see what preliminary put. I'm really trying to push young architects that will come out of Southeast DC, but the narrative would not fit in the media. And that's true because, and I talked about this last week. This is kind of like a carryover from when I was bringing up the thing with David Jaffe, um, trying to address race head on. And it's one of those things where what you're exposed to growing up will affect what you do as you grow up and later on in life. Like the thing with baseball, I'm like, I can't stress this enough about baseball because with baseball, and this was a point that Bills and VF definitely, I say correctly to this day. I'm like, we were kind of like on two sides of a winning argument as far as baseball was concerned. There were no losers in that debate that we had, but they correctly brought up a point that where if baseball is a dying sport, so one, that's going to make it harder to expose young black kids too. So that's number one. Number two, if you can't even market your white stars, how in the hell are you going to be able to market the black stars, which are getting fewer and fewer in between? So that's number two. And then number three, which is what I was arguing because that's what happened to me was tactics that were being used to like active tactics being used to discourage black kids from playing the sport. Like I said, being cut my senior year in high school from the baseball team, in which I wasn't the only person of color that was cut from the squad. And then the only other person that was white that was cut from the squad was on the team last year too. So it was kind of like a shock. And then the person that they put in my place was on academic probation. They gave him my jersey number, which was the ultimate insult at the end. Nothing to that player. I'm like I was good. I'm like we were good friends at the time. Matter of fact, I had nothing against any players on that baseball team to this day. They're all good players. One of them actually, he could have made the majors. He was really good, really good. But I got cut, and I felt like the coach. It's kind of hard to say because it confused me because it was like, all right, if you weren't an outright athlete, if you didn't, I don't know because the previous year there were three people of color on the team. It was myself and two other dudes. It was another African American and a Hispanic dude that was on the team on varsity. And then to go from three, in which one of them was one of the stars of the team, to none, was kind of shocking, especially if one of them returned the following year to play and was in better condition to play because it's not like I took a break off. I actually had a whole year the previous year to practice and get better and was one of your better infielders during the spring tryouts. To this day, I feel like I was one of the better infielders. I'm like my arm may not have been the strongest, but I was playing shortstop and second base. And like all you had to do was put me at second base, and the person that they started at second base, like I can tell you right now, I had more range than all of them. I'm like anybody will be able to tell you that I covered more ground at shortstop and second base than anybody that they put in that position. So the fact that I could have been a defensive replacement or a defensive role player, even though I was in the lineup, they cut me nonetheless. But some of the little tactics here and there um, that were being used, like I said, beforehand, like many years prior to that, being hit like doing fielding practice at a tryout with a team that you mostly associate that has a lot of white players. The coach is hitting the ball harder to us than they are to our white counterparts. Using us in games as pinch runners and what have you, and kind of treating us as like the second class athlete on the team. Whether it's intended or not, you're looking at us and it's like, oh, he can run, he's fast. Oh, we can use him in a late inning situation and pinch hit. We don't have to worry about if he can hit. You can pull anybody off the street and do that. But that's insulting because, a lot of us have actual skill in certain positions. Coming up in Columbia Youth Baseball Association, being not every team did this, but it was rampant that most teams would put black kids in out and outfield because we were fast and could cover ground. I was a terrible outfielder, by the way. I did not have the patience for it. That's why I love being in the infield. And I love playing shortstop because that's where the action was. And I had one of the top gloves in youth baseball. I'm like nothing was getting past me. Um, and like I said, I had mad range, but that's just so. And I know I like ranted away from the main point, but let's bring it back a little bit. So bring it back to you act white. It can go from even skin tone. Like you look at my skin tone, and not that I shaved, everything for this purpose, but you see me and I don't fit the typical what like I think my nose is the only thing that fits. But even then that's a stereotype that black people have these big noses. I'm like that's a stereotype. Not all black people have big noses and big lips and whatnot. That's the type of shit that they used during slavery. The stereotypically clown our asses. That and blackface. So and blackface that really is accentuated our looks to be clownish and to point out how uneducated we were. And I think even like I said, even now they don't associate like the stereotypical thing is to associate being uneducated with being with black people. That is a thing as well. um each time I've posted something, the same person that says no one says this has attacked my intelligence each and every time. Has attacked my intelligence each and every time. That's his go-to. And it's crazy because I went to school with this guy. This guy seemed less educated than me. But yet he would attack my intelligence each time. And I feel like I get him every single time he comes in. I'm like, I don't block anybody. I allow him to chat because I believe in freedom of speech. I don't believe in censorship. People have told me to block him. He's an asshole, which that is true. That has always been the case. It's been the case since high school. It's the case now. He's also an ignorant asshole. And not really his fault. But at the same time, when you repeatedly come on somebody's post, which that person doesn't like, which me, I don't go on anybody's post. I post on my turf. So if you come to my turf, then you better have some stuff. And this cat has not had anything to fight with. So let me put what John Black says. Yep, that's what I act white my whole life. And there you have it. Everyone knows Doug Thomas's race now, because that was actually a question that me and Bills had about you. Let's see, because he says because I like metal and I talk proper, but they say I sound white. And what's worse is the white people would say I'm well spoken or I know how to articulate. Yeah, that's see. This is the NY Kia moment. Because NY Kia. Oh man, I had to talk about NY Kia because in the community, all of us thought he was white, and he had us all fooled. The way he talked, just the way he talked, because that's all we had. We didn't have no visuals, and it was and the way and we got a glimpse because there was an exchange between him and Ryan Moody, and all of a sudden you see this arm that was like big as fuck. It was like, wait, hold up. And you could tell it was a picture that was just taken moments ago. It was just like, wait, man, is Kia black? Oh shit. So that became like a funny moment in the sim community, and then of course when he finally gets on camera and the cat's totally out the bag. I bet you he initially lost subscribers because you would think somebody with that type of voice seeing it, and this is the opposite of the stereotype. We have stereotypes of white people too. Y'all sound not nasally and I wouldn't even say talk proper. It's just the way the way some of you sound. But the thing is, that was like NY Kia jumps on the camera, and all of a sudden you see this black man. And it's just like had everybody fooled. So just so you know, I like hip hop too. it actually if you didn't like hip hop, it wouldn't surprise me. I For the fact that where I grew up in, it's all about where the environment. Once you're born, it's about the environment. People act how they act in a certain environment, black, white, Asian, whatever. Side note: Trey Young is balling. Well, I know. Oh, wait a minute. Wizards are within 7. So Trey Young is balling. So that's something you want to tell VF, even though he's not a Hawks fan. Because I remember he did trash that man when he first drafted him, and all of a sudden Trey Young is gold. VF's opinion was trash. So, but yeah, um, damn, what's going on here? Are they going to grab the rebound, stop playing volleyball? Could have sworn Marcin Gortat was out there playing. But it's about the environment that people act and they grow up in. Obviously, I've lived in the suburbs. I've been exposed to many things beyond just rap and R&B. Even though those are my go-to, rap and R&B. I like classical music, like orchestrated music, mainly the soundtracks, particularly from Star Wars, particularly specifically from Star Wars. Uh, I listen to binaural beats. I don't know if any African American who listens, who openly, freely tells people about binaural beats and how to manipulate your own mind pattern by being able to relax and focus by using. I've shared tracks of just nothing but binaural beats. I like rock and roll. By Ben. What the? This dude said Ben. How do you even pronounce the N and the R in that? Ben real. The way you separate it, it's like goes beyond subconscious mind. It's like Ben Neil, right? It's like you have to roll it. You have to roll it. No. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Yep, I got it. Yeah, I knew I was gonna figure that out. Yeah, you weren't rushing. That was intentional. Talk about it goes subconscious mind. So Bill and Doug Thomas was like, "Yep, I live either military bases or suburbs." Yeah, I strictly was in the suburbs, so that also explains why I like hockey. I had friends that exposed me to the sport of hockey, and thank God for that. Thank God for hockey. If I was just stuck on the typical black people sports, basketball and football, man, I'd be bored as hell up in here. I would also be stuck playing certain video games, but that's for one commentator who isn't even black that's just stuck on one game. But yeah, I'm like, again, exposed to baseball early, exposed to hockey, obviously I was exposed to baseball because my father played baseball, and my first athletic feat was hitting a home run at the age of 3 years old in my backyard. No cap. I hit a home run. I hit it over the fence in my backyard off the little automatic pitch. I forgot what they were called, but you would dispense the ball. It wasn't a pitching machine, but it was like a toy pitching machine. You dispense the little plastic baseball in there, and they would pitch it to you. I knocked one over the fence. My father saw that shit. He was like, "Yeah, I got me one right here." So, splatter up. No, that wasn't it. Splatter up is something that's more recent. I'm talking about something. It literally had a hand and it hit the plastic ball to you. So I hit something that was propelled towards me, not something off a tee. Matter of fact, I've never hit off a tee. That's I learned to bat basically from hitting stuff that was thrown at me, not off a tee. And that's kind of crazy. I think about that. I never really, I didn't play t-ball. I didn't really play t-ball. I kind of played it for one, but it wasn't something that I learned how to hit off a tee. I learned to hit just for the fact that something's being propelled to me. I got to hit that sucker, and I did. So, Say that's how he first learned to hit was on the tee. Yeah, so I'm gonna take this band down because obviously we're still on the topic of you act white, um, but like I said, this thing had so many. There's so many levels to that topic that it probably won't. The fact that it's going on almost an hour, and this topic has so many stories, and it's funny because to just come in, I still trip over the fact that this dude just came in and said no one says this. And Bills and I, we talked about it, and we were like, well, it would have been better if he says, "I've never heard anybody say this." See, when you come in and you think you're a white man, and you come into the conversation with that statement, and just because you have black friends doesn't mean you know everything about black people. You can just come in and tell me and others that no one says anything when clearly people say this. And it was proven post after post after post after post. Couldn't even admit that he was wrong. I'm like, he says he believes me. I said, I'd rather you believe it rather than me because me is just one person. And if you're just going to believe something based on what I said, then you're being foolish because there's always going to be a black person that's going to probably say something different. Like, I never heard it said to me either. So you want to believe it because it encompasses more than one person, it encompasses the overall thought. And the thought is, and the thing is, you act white, that black person can be attacked from both sides with this sentiment because black people can say it to other black people, and that's like the crab in the barrel type of statement. And then white people can say it to black people, it can be a backhanded compliment. So that's the world that black folks live in. It's a duality for people like I would say for black people like me. It's a duality that we've had to deal with for quite some time. You know, we get it from our own, and we get it from everyone else. So, all right. So, if anybody got any other things, anybody in the chat have things on this that they want to bring up? Any questions? I think questions are always good because questions bring about insight. Insight creates knowledge. Knowledge creates awareness, and awareness is instilled education, and education is power. Well, they say knowledge is power, but I think education is power. Because you can have unlimited education for all I care. So if there are no questions, we are going to move on. And we're gonna go on from you act white to that ass. Oh, so we do have a question. Okay, so I kind of moved on too soon, but the preliminary says, "What's your opinion on rap?" Okay, my opinion on rap. It's definitely not the same as it was in the 80s and 90s. Um, I don't think there's much to it these days. I feel like a lot of people's images are false. There are some good ones, there are some true ones, but there are a lot of frauds in the rap community now these days. Um, I would say the last good bit of it was in the early 2000s. I mean, as far as good rap music, like stuff that was it was true to the artist, something that like if you okay, look at a person like Takashi 69. All that gang shit he was talking in most of his rap songs and whatnot, he winds up going to jail because he does the one thing that in most gang culture and most street culture you don't do. He did it. He did it freely. That makes him a fraud. But what happened is that I think now these days people accept fraudulent behavior as a good thing because when he gets out, all of a sudden his notoriety goes up. It's supposed to go down when you're caught out as a fraud. If you're caught in a lie, you're snitching on folks. But apparently that doesn't happen. In the gaming community, frauds get celebrated. They don't get splattered. They don't get called out. They get called out to be celebrated. They don't get called out to be dealt with. So that's say a lot of these artists mumble over the beat. That's true as well. I can't even understand clearly what they're saying. Like you don't have to slow down. I'm like, the funny thing is, Mystical could talk fast, but I could understand every word he said. Busta Rhymes would do it. I can understand every word he said. Eminem would do it. I can understand what he said. Only person during that time, and he wasn't even in rap, that I didn't understand what he said until I had to read the lyrics was Michael Jackson. Everyone thinks that Michael Jackson said "Mama say, Mama sa, Mama tu." That's not what he said. I think the line was like, "I'm gonna say," what was the lyric? I saw it on Twitter earlier. I'm gonna say, "I'm not gonna stop." I'm not gonna stop was like the line. Hold up. I'll find it later, but it's. Oh yeah, that's right. Twista. You can understand every word he was saying. And the thing is, it's like, look, speak clearly. Um, you can get into play on words. I feel like a lot of lines, a lot of these lyrics don't have anything behind them. Like you can tell that they're being written. You can tell that they're being written by writers and not the artists being creative. That's unfortunate. That's what I talk about. I talk with Bills about him being a entertainer, being a singer, and the fact that in this day and age, you get a lot of entertainers and singers that are caught up in not coming up with their own stuff, and eventually it'll leak out, and you can tell how they perform. It's just like, and then you can tell how they feel about it. It's just like, I didn't really write that, so whatever. You can tell the real ones. So, but let's get into that ass effect. So apparently, BioWare, they're coming out with the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which is the trilogy being remastered. And the devs have come out and said that they want to change some things. Like one of the main things that they were going to change was the control scheme to make it more streamlined with Mass Effect 2 and 3, which I think is a good thing. Mass Effect 1, first of all, you can only, I think, unless you have it set up on Steam or whatever PC platform you have it on, you can only play it mouse and keyboard. You could play it on, you can use a controller in the first one. I really didn't play through the first one. The only one I beat was Mass Effect 2. But the control schemes being more in line with Mass Effect 2, it's going to be better. The graphics, resolution, everything's going to be optimized for 4K. I would say 4K, hopefully 4K 60. That should be the goal, 4K 60 for an old game. All three old ass games. So that's the change. But the change that caught people's eyes was one of the devs came out and said, and this was concerning because when Mass Effect 2 first came out, there was a little blip about, oh, they're showing too much ass. And it was the character Miranda. It was like, oh, they're showing too much ass. They're showing too much ass. And it literally got coined, what I coined this topic as, that ass effect. Because that's what you saw. That ass. That's what you saw. But and one of the devs came out and said I think they're making changes. They're probably going to take away some of those shots because when they questioned themselves, they was like, okay, why are we taking these shots? I don't think that's unnecessary. So I think we're going to think they said they're coming out. They're going to not have that camera shot in the game, or they're going to get rid of that camera shot somehow. And people are upset about it. They're also upset the people. They're also upset about the people that are defending the exclusion of said shots in cinematics as a form, because they're looking at this as a form of censorship, and which is true. It is a form of censorship. You're getting rid of it because you feel it's unnecessary, but but this is why the wait. It's not even about censorship. I feel like they're taking away an important piece of continuity and character production here, or character build up here. Miranda Lawson is a character in Mass Effect 2. She explains to whatever Shepard that you control, whether it be male or female, that she is genetically enhanced in every way. I'm gonna say it again. That she is genetically enhanced in every way. So a lot of the camera shots were meant to show off where and how much she was genetically enhanced. It was like the perfect woman. She even, I think she had a line where she said it, and because Shepard was asking her about, okay, and how are you enhanced? And she talks about her intelligence or her athleticism, and then kind of makes a motion. It was like, yes, everything genetically enhanced. And those camera shots pointed that out. It emphasized the enhancements to create a form of this is the perfect female in that world, in that universe. And those were the point of the shots. I'm like, they were gratuitous in nature, but it was emphasizing the fact that this character assets were enhanced, and she's not afraid to show off any enhancements that she has, whether it be her intelligence, whether it be her athleticism, or whether it be that ass. So I believe the devs are overthinking this, and I think they should have just left that alone. There's other stuff that I think people will feel is more important. They should have left alone, like talked about the Mass Effect 3 ending, which the original ending, which they changed right after they put it out. After you beat the game, Mass Effect 3, back then, they changed it to the ending that they're going to include now. I'm actually happy for that change, because that left a lot of things unanswered, and it left a lot of people's reasonings for playing the Mass Effect series in shambles, because they felt like, oh, my decisions or whatever are going to play out, and this is how the story is going to end. And no, you don't give Mass Effect 3. It was like, I don't give two flying fucks about what decisions you made in Mass Effect 1. They're all going to die. If you haven't played Mass Effect 3, sorry. Too late now. So I hope, and I put this on my wish list on Steam because I'm getting this on PC. I have the original Mass Effect 2, so I will always have that Mass Effect. If you want to have the original game the way it was, see, and this is another thing, and this is where I would straddle the fence on just that Mass Effect controversy. If you're that upset that they're taking out gratuitous butt shots of Miranda Lawson, buy the original game. Just buy the original game. It's probably like $4 somewhere, and have at it. But it's not alleviating the devs of making a dumb decision by getting rid of the shots, because to me, it kind of, secondary, it is a form of censorship, but primarily it's It's part of the character's persona to show off her enhancements. That if anybody paid attention to the story, which I did because Mass Effect 2 was the only Mass Effect I beat, that was part of her character. She liked to show off. So the camera followed suit. Like, yeah, here you go. This. So that's kind of crazy that that's happening. And I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, should they keep that ass in there, or get rid of that ass? I don't know. Yeah, but like other than earlier, the last topic, everybody was chiming in, but nobody want to talk about that ass. Oh, okay. Doug Thomas was talking about keep it. Yeah, keep it in there. It's part of her. To me, like I said, it's part of her character. It's part of the reason why she exists. And she was a rogue. I think she was also a rogue character because her character comes from a group that comes from the guy that called the Elusive Man, and his group is the one that because what is it? You find out early that Shepard. It's too late now. If you haven't played the Mass Effect series, I'm sorry, it's too late. But for those that haven't played, a spoiler alert. But who gives a fuck? You're recruited by a group that's led by a guy known as the Elusive Man, and there are two teammates that you'll get right out the gate. There's a black character, and then there's Miranda Lawson. I forgot the name of the black character because he was forgettable as far as that, and that should tell you. I don't remember his name, but Miranda Lawson. I never forget about that name. Like Miranda Lawson, Talia. I forgot the other characters. Just Talia and Miranda. The only two I know. I remember. There was a lot more, but they become your teammates from the start. And you do encounter some people from Mass Effect 1. You meet new people. You form a team. You storm the Capitol like the zombie ass white people did on January 6th. And that's that. And whatever happens, happens. So, hey, what's up, High Towers? It was like, shalom. Like I'm Jewish. I even forgot how you, do you just say shalom back? Like, I've seen the exchanges, and sometimes it's shalom, and sometimes it's just whatever. So, but Hightower, we just I don't know if you've been listening the whole entire time, but should they keep that ass in the Mass Effect, or should they keep it out? Yep, shalom is fine. Okay, cool. Yeah, a lot of times I'll repeat stuff based on what I've seen, and I've just seen the exchange. I know in the Muslim faith, it's like alaikum salam, and then you say assalamu alaikum, and you say alaikum salam. I think I'm pronunciation is probably way off, but I know that's the exchange, that's the greetings there. So I try to be as open as I am to religious greetings and stuff like that. Also willing to learn. My great grandmother is a Ashkenazi. Okay, Jew. Okay, I get it. I had to, and it's funny because I literally sit there when it comes to like different cultures as far as pronunciation of names. I try my best to try to pronounce it right the first time, and I think there are times where I'll get caught up in trying to pronounce it and break it down and pronounce like what I think is great, and I wind up getting it wrong that way. But like growing up watching hockey, so I had a lot of Russian names. So I knew a guy on the Capitals. It's like Yaroslav Savkovsky. Like I could pronounce that Russian name, and there's a whole bunch of Russian names. Obviously, Ovechkin is easy, but then you got Kuznetsov. Evgeny Kuznetsov is another name. I don't tell many people that either. Well, I feel I feel honored to know that. Uh, and like it does provide context as far as where a person comes from, just to know that about you. And it when people learn about like family members and stuff like that, you tend to act accordingly. So it's one of those things where like the more I know about you guys as the viewers, the more I know about and a lot of you guys I've known for a little bit. I mean, I obviously known through the internet. Like I don't think there's not one person. Well, out of any of the people that have shown up to these streams and on First and Frame Rates, there's probably one person that I've met in person, and that was the character. That was the person. That was the Cappy character that everyone saw get booted off by VF unceremoniously, and had to tell him that was a high school friend of mine. I'm like, good grief, it's gonna kick people off. Now you giving it a chance. You kept shooting this ladybug on. What's going on? So you wouldn't even guess half the stuff that came up in my DNA. I can only imagine, because people, when they take those DNA tests, and we're done with the data ass effect, because that the DNA test is like the way I view it when I did it, because I did Ancestry.com and I did 23andMe. I already assumed that it was a guesstimate. I don't think it's an exact science, because they've had to change my results twice on Ancestry.com. So I know that's a work in progress. We have not figured out the genome experience. We have not. I'm like, we're getting there, but I know it evolves. And I think what I had was, of course, this goes into the act white portion of the show, which was earlier, was that I had 23% European in my DNA, and obviously that's explained through slavery. That's not something of free will or whatever. It could have been. I don't know what happened at that time, way back then. But as far as I know, somebody either got raped or willingly had a child with a white man. It could have been the other way around, because white women were infatuated with black men when they were slaves, and they still are now. So let's see. Yeah, the mother's side actually owned slaves. It was discovered months ago. See, and I wonder when people come to that reckoning, when they find out, because I have a notion that there's somebody that has spoken out, like a video of this person went viral, and he speaks out. He's a conservative. He's like right there in North Carolina, or around the same spot and his last name is the same as mine. It's a white guy, and I think this is purely speculative. I think his family owned my family at one point. I think in the past, his ancestors owned my ancestors at one point in time. Because remember, when slaves were brought over from the continent of Africa, they were stripped of their name. They were stripped of their identity, whether it was name, religion, culture, everything. And I think this is actually a good point to bring up, because the whole "you act white" category or topic, you get stripped of everything. So a lot of times they would adopt. They were giving the last name of their slave owner. Let's see. You are possibly tied to him biologically too. Yes, and that's what I'm saying. It's like I wasn't saying the one thing to and separately saying the other, obviously I think the two do go together because it's in the same town where he lives is in the same town my grandmother on my mother's side lives in. So I sometimes you have to put two and two together. And the thing is, the one thing I know about slavery and slaves being sold in North Carolina because that's where my grandmother, my mother's side, she was from. She was raised and grew up in I forgot it was like a inland town in North Carolina, and the fact that she was that far inland, she wasn't like on the coast because initially slaves were sold on the coast, where they came in through the ports and stuff like that, and also put on blocks to be sold and stuff like that. All the stuff that you see in the NFL, pretty much what was happening to black people, being put on blocks, taking pictures, you know, judging based on how they look. Families were separated. Again, identities taken away, stuff like that. But my folks were at my like I said, my grandmother on my mother's side, she grew up in I forgot which town in North Carolina, but it was very much inland. But in that same area is where this cat lives currently, and I think where he lives currently was the actual place. Was a plantation back in the day. He owns a huge farm, and I'm sure that farm has been in his family for quite some time. Like, if I ever speak to him, I'm sure he'd be like, I don't believe it. I wouldn't have any proof, but I would have to talk with my grandmother before she passes. Um, to oh, she's not gonna die anytime soon. I'm just saying she's old. Both of them are, but the one on my mother's side, um, she's the one that's in that part in North Carolina. So, to my father's side, the Hightowers were originally a family of brothers who brought our ancestors from Benin, Africa. Yep. See, the fact that you know, see, this is what you're saying is a lot of black people don't get this far as the knowledge of themselves of this past. And let me see. My black relatives actually live in the same town today as the White Hightower descendants. So I'm sure they do. This is a question. Do they speak to each other as family members? Because that will be an interesting thing. It's just like um, because eventually it became biological. It wasn't just slave. It wasn't just owner to slaves. It then became, oh, now we're biologically linked. We really are family, not this. Oh, I purchased you from the block in a coast town or whatever, and you have my name because I think what would happen is that when slaves were sold off, like after they were enslaved and brought onto the one plantation, they would go to another. If they were sold off to another owner, they would adopt that person's name. So you have double identity theft there. So he says yes, some do, and he says some come to the reunions and some funerals. And you know what? And that's honestly that's pretty cool because it's one of those things where it's an acknowledgement when you have that situation. It may feel I don't know if it feels awkward. I guess with some people it feel awkward. It was like your family owned my family. Like what the hell? Like there would be some inner anger that would pop up. But then after a while, you get to know the people that are living today and understand that those aren't the people that enslaved us. It was their ancestors that enslaved us. I'd be angry at them, but they're dead. That person that's speaking in front of me is being cool is alive now. So and he says there are some that deny it, but DNA tests revealed it all. Well, they only know but so much. They probably could because it is a situation. But I think one thing I will say And it's funny being in Black History Month. I was watching. I actually got through both seasons of The Warrior. Hopefully, they have a third season. It probably won't be on HBO Max. It'll probably be someplace else. Hopefully, it's on. Hopefully, HBO Max gives them a third season because they left us on a cliffhanger. So there should be a third season. And it's Warrior. It's a show based on. It's a show based on the martial artist, the late Bruce Lee. It's his writings. They're uh, being expanded upon, and it's a great fucking show. It is like there's no characters that are wasted. There's no filler episodes. There's no filler characters. There's no filler episodes, and each episode seems like it delivers the message of what it's trying to deliver, but it also pays homage to anybody, any and everybody. Like they had a couple episodes. One was literally called "Enter the Dragon," and you saw something that was cool that Bruce Lee did in one of the martial arts movies he did. You see that play off with the I forgot the guy's name, Kofi. He's the main character. He's Asian Canadian, which to me is a weird combination, but he's Asian, born in Canada or residing in Canada. A lot of the actors in this show live in Canada or the UK, and a lot of shows that I'm seeing that are really good. The actors are from Canada or from the UK, and yeah. But watching what the visuals of what Asians went through when they were immigrants in this country, it gave me a renewed perspective of how were they able to make it versus how Irish, Scottish, English immigrants and any other immigrants were able to make it, and how we continue to struggle. And it goes back to what I was just talking about. When we were brought here, first of all, we didn't voluntarily come over here. We were stolen property, and not even property. We were just stolen. Period. But the one thing that helps when you're in a strange land, the thing that helps you is having a firm base of knowing who you are, like everything from the core. We were brought from the continent of Africa, and the very things that could have helped us were taken from us. Like we were physically taken from a continent and brought to another. Then everything that made us who we were, would have kept us strong, was stripped away from us once we got to the other continent. We had no identity, we had no name, we had no religion, we had no culture once we got to the United States or the Caribbean or wherever we first got sold off to. So, one, we weren't voluntarily brought over here, and two, we had no knowledge, no identity to fall back on in a strange environment. And then after that, there was other systemic breakdowns of us, like the whole friction between black men and black women. That's started in slavery too. Light skin versus dark skin, that's a tactic in slavery. That's a legacy of slavery too. Again, that whole you act white thing, that whole association with education and white, that's a slavery legacy issue as well. So there's a whole lot going on. But those other races that were immigrants, most of them, there were exceptions because there was a character in The Warrior that had a similar experience as African Americans. So, and when you watch it, you know which character that will be. Like when he reveals that, well, you know it's a guy. When he reveals that, you're like, oh shit, they all didn't come here like voluntarily. You would think, but yeah. So those are the races. The reason why we continue to struggle is because we still are picking up the pieces in our identity and who we are. You know, a lot of us don't know what country in Africa we are from. I have an idea. but I don't know exactly where, uh, what country that I was in. According to Ancestry DNA, I'm from Nigeria. Do I look like I'm Nigerian? Probably not. Most people and most of Ethiopians have come up to me, and I'm one of them. So I'm always looking at Ethiopia, and I'm like, because some of the characteristics of some of the, I fit a lot of the characteristics. A lot of people coming to me who are Ethiopian have asked me, "Am I Ethiopian?" And you have to really pay attention to when people say this because they're looking into a mirror when they look at me. So that's why they ask. So I take that seriously. So it's either one or two places for me. It's either Ethiopia or Nigeria, and I've been leaning towards Ethiopia because I believe that maybe part of my family is from Nigeria, but that's a secondary birthplace. I think my original birthplace was the original birthplace of mankind, and that was in Ethiopia. So we'll just go with that because it makes sense because of who has identified me as one of them, and that's Ethiopians. Because no Nigerian has come up to me and said I'm Nigerian. So we're just gonna go with that. Trust the experts, not necessarily the science, because the experts are the people themselves. So Doug is like, I wish I knew what country my ancestors came from. That everybody, a lot of people, a lot of African Americans wish. I'm like, a lot of our paperwork stops at the trading block. That's the unfortunate part. But I'm gonna leave everybody with that because that could go on for another. That could be another topic down the road. But I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up. I'd like to thank everybody for stopping by. I'm just go through the roll calls of Doug Thomas, Mr. Hightower. I'm calling Mr. Hightower. We got a couple Lemonade Sports who came by. Pooh was here earlier. I'm trying to see if there's anybody else here. No, that looks like that was it. So, yeah, I appreciate it. Definitely appreciate it. Um, so we, so let's. If anybody doesn't have any questions, I'll make my way out of here. And once again, just let everybody know I'm back to writing again. I don't have a schedule, so I'm gonna just put the site that you can find my blog. So whenever I upload a post, I will send a link out so everybody get a chance to view it, especially in the Discord. And those on Twitch, that are viewing this on Twitch, you can find me on YouTube. There, and obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube and you want to check out anything that I post, or not post, but any streams that are just Twitch only, because they're obviously I exported a lot of episodes of what the fuck just happened, but there's other streams that I'll probably do that are just Twitch only. I'll export those to YouTube, but if you don't want to wait, you can find me here at EVO325. If you have to create an account, don't worry, it's free. A lot of eggs of people that I know that are followers that are just signing up on Twitch for the first time. So you don't have to, just like YouTube, you don't have to produce content to get an account and be able to follow your favorite streamer. But you'll find that Twitch is a lot better place than YouTube. Just saying. And if you want to find me on Twitter, it's at DJ81. And to Mr. Hightower, right on. That's what I'm saying. So, all right, Doug, you have a good night. Thank you for coming by. And then, just to let everybody know, we'll have another episode of First and Frame Rates tomorrow. We normally go live Tuesdays and Thursday evenings, 7:45-ish. Eastern Standard Time, talk about sports and video gaming. It's myself, VF Baller, and Billsforth. We all go balls to the walls when it comes to talking about these topics. uncensored, unapologetic, and the roasts are pretty good. So if you're down for stuff like that, we definitely will cater to that. Now, how do I get rid of that? I should have just like that. There we go. So we definitely enjoy everybody's company. Again, we'll be live again tomorrow. And other than that, if no one has anything else, we are out this bitch. So again, thank everybody for stopping by. I appreciate it. And we will have episode 17. We are nearing the end of season 2. So we got 17, 18, 19. Do we go to 20s? Because yeah, we'll go to 20. So because we're so 17, 18, 19, then 20, and then season 2 is over with. We'll have season 3 afterwards, but then comes the mandatory rest period because, like I said, every quarter is 10 episodes. That's what I've promised you guys, that I would do 10 episodes a quarter, and I would do 10 episodes and then rest for 2 weeks and come back, rest and refresh. It seemed like that worked. It was like an impromptu running of season 1. So other than that, you guys have a good night. He got stuck on the phone. All right, you guys have a good night. Peace out.
I've been practicing law for 41 years now. I didn't have the plans to stop. I enjoy it too much. It's much too gratifying. The fact that I've been able to help so many people in my career in all sorts of cases, small and medium sized,